So this is how I left the bike last night. Started to get a little cold, and actually I didn't even come out here and start until it was already getting dark outside. Hey Havana, how you doing? So I'm gonna pull the forks off, pull the back wheel off, and probably pull the exhaust off. So by the end of this evening, I'll probably just have a motor, tank, swing arm, and that's pretty much it, sitting on the jack here. So we'll see how it turns out, see where we get. All right, so, sorry, I had a couple of phone calls and whatnot come in. So I got off that windscreen mounting bracket, took off the little mount that was here. One screw for that is for the bottom of the headlight housing, if I remember correctly, where the back of the shell mounts on. So now I'm going to drop the forks. So that requires me to take off the upper triple. So there's two 5mm Allens on each side. The large, the bolt here at the top of the triple, I've actually already gone and loosened these up because there's no need in you watching me get bolts and whatnot and come back and forth. So I'm going to take off the bolt on the top of the upper triple here, take a rubber mallet, tap up on there a little bit. There is a washer here, so make sure that you get that because if you go to tap it up, it could possibly go flying off. So just going to set this over here on the table, grab my rubber 2x heavy, gently tap up on here. Oh, well, look at that. Well, like I said, I'm not taking the bloopers out. I need to release the gauge cluster here because as the upper triple comes off, it catches the tip there. And I may not need to do that. I didn't look in the manual to see about taking this off. But better safe than sorry, and ultimately I'm going to have to take this off anyway because I'm going to clean up the tank, especially when I do the gas cap. And taking it off is it's not going to cost me any much time. It's just 3 5mm bolts holding it in. So I am going to stop the recording, and when I come back, I'll probably already have that off. All right. I guess it would help if I had that remote turned on. All right, so I got the 3 bolts out of the dash, 1, 2, and 3, and there's 2 plugs under here for your gauges and for your speedo and all your lights and stuff up there. So I'm gonna disconnect these 2 connectors and just take the dash all the way off, or take the whole cover all the way off, just so it's out of the way, not gonna cause any problems. And once I do that, then I'll go ahead and tap this off, pull the covers off, because you see they're already loose. Okay, so I'm going to do all that and then come back. All right, so unplugged and removed the gauges. Ooh, it's filthy down there. Tapped off the upper triple, pulled off the fork covers. So the fork covers are here. And as you can see, just for giggles, I marked them right and left. Actually, that's backwards because that's me looking at the bike and not from the seat. So I'm going to remark those with a Sharpie. And they should be identical, but, you know, just for giggles, figured might as well mark them just in case it's the way they're sitting in the seals or something like that. So the next thing to do is to loosen the bolts on the lower triple and drop the forks out of there. And then actually this comes up, there's a ring there, that ring comes off, and then there's a bolt here that secures the lower fork leg cover, so that'll come off. So let me remark these upper fork leg covers real quick, and I'll come back and do the other part. All right, back at it. So what I did was there's 3 5mm Allen head screws that connect these lower fork leg covers. The 2 on the inside also hold up the little rings that hold your brake lines and clutch line, all that stuff, not your clutch, just your brake lines that hold them underneath the triple. So when you take those loose, these little bolts are going to be loose. I just leave them hanging in there. The outside one is the last one that's holding the lower fork leg on. It's not going to drop all the way off because of your caliper mounting points. So it's the same thing on both sides. Thus far, everything I've done has been with a 5mm Allen. Your lower triple clamps for the fork legs are 6mm. So I'm going to take these loose and loosen them both a little bit first. Don't take them out terribly far at first, just because you don't want the fork leg to slide out on you. And then just start to loosen them each kind of one turn at a time. There's nothing specific to it, I don't think. At least I haven't seen anything. But you want to get this this choke point loosened up a little bit, or these are basically pinch bolts. Get these loosened up a little bit so you get enough of a gap, and you should be able to turn your fork tube and slide it right out. And hopefully by removing these, I'm not shifting the balance so much on the bike that it wants to fall that way off of the jack. But the back wheel's still on, so worst case scenario, it'll tip backward and be on the back tire and part of the frame, and I'll do some moving around to try to get it back up on the jack. And then I can slide my lower fork leg cover off, put it over here, put the fork down, and do the same thing for this side. Break these 6mm loose. Then once you get them loose, like I said, just turn them like a turn a piece or whatever, or excuse me, a turn at a time each, until you get them a little bit loose, and you can turn the fork a bit and slide it right out of the lower triple. Make sure the bike doesn't become too unbalanced. Ooh, that's pretty good. Again, pull the lower fork leg cover off. Set that aside. So I just went old school to get the spanner collars off, because I wasn't going to go searching for my spanner wrench because I don't know where it is. It's somewhere in the garage. But I just used a hammer and screwdriver to drive these loose. Top one, then there's a rubber seal between the two, and then the bottom one. So I took those off and dropped the neck and lower triple out. And if you take a look at that, I've actually wiped some of the grease off of there. I mean, I'm pretty sure that was the OEM grease, which this is a 2006, so 15 years old now. And you can see in the top, this stuff is just gnarly. You know, it's probably OEM grease, like I said. So, you know, it's gotten its 15 years worth of you know, work in. So I didn't even think to check on my new upper triples, or excuse me, my new triple clamps, my 6.5 degree rake ones, to see if they came with bearings, and they don't. So I'm going to go on to Amazon or something and order some new bearings and races. And then, of course, I'll have to, there is no, oh yeah, there's a lower race in there. I'm going to have to drive the bearing race out of the top and bottom of this, out of the neck, in order to put these in. These things are kind of sexy. They are beefy as hell. I see so far that I may be able to use my stock headlight bracket, but I may not be, because there's only one hole in the front there, and you'll notice that hole is not in the stock one. So I do have like a crater headlight from some stuff I was doing with my last bagger that I built. So I'll see what I can do for a mount. And I've got a couple of different headlight choices. I've got an LED headlight, and I've got an HID that was actually in this bike that was aftermarket that somebody put in. But that's the lower triple. Here's the upper, and when I lay those together, you can see from the side, you can see the rake that's in there. That's not straight up and down. You see the angle of the neck compared to the forks. So pretty sexy looking, actually. What sucks though too is that for me to do my air ride, I'm going to actually have to drill holes in the tops of my upper triple in order to tap the fork for the air ride. I don't think I can go in from the side of the fork, but you know, I'll do some research, see what I can find out. I'm not going to be able to mount these until I get bearings anyway, so that gives me a couple of days. That also means I get to move to a different part of the bike. Oh, I'm trying to turn my camera around, but I'm actually just taking photos. Okay, so I'm going to call it a night for tonight doing this stuff. As you saw earlier, got the upper triple clamp off. Excuse me, and I'm going to clean that neck out. I can't do anything with the new triples until I get new bearings. I was going to take the back wheel off, but I was really uncomfortable with how precariously this would then be balanced on the jack. I mean, I guess I could put blocks or something under the rear swing arm, but taking weight off is actually going to shift weight forward, so blocks there wouldn't help. But I'm just going to leave it like this for now. So you see I got the air box off, or the air cleaner off, and that's going away because I got a different air cleaner anyway. Got the exhaust off, plugged up the holes with paper towels, shop towels, to keep from building up any real condensation in there, keep any critters from trying to get in there overnight since it's cold. And just looks really naked on the side. Anyway, that's where I'm leaving it for tonight. You can see I had to take the floorboard off in order to get the front pipe off. I didn't feel that there was a need to record that because it's just total of 4 bolts holding, 6 bolts, excuse me, 8. Wow. 8 bolts holding on the exhaust, 2 for each manifold flange, and then 2 for the upper and 2 for the lower in the back on that bracket, Cobra exhaust. And that bracket's going to come off since I'm going to have to shorten the exhaust for a side exit ahead of the bags, so that bracket will not be of use anymore. But it's a good piece of metal with some holes in it already, so I might be able to use that for something else. Actually, I need to measure how far away apart those holes are. That might work for my fender bracket, but we'll see. Anyway, calling it a night, and this is how she will sleep tonight. So you guys saw that I said couldn't do anything else till I got new bearings. Thankfully, my local motorcycle dealership had some bearings, but check that out. These are actually quad boss for a dirt bike or a four-wheeler, but it is the exact same as the All Balls 221004. In fact, the races say All Balls on them, which is funny and a little bit cheaper. Anyway, I'm gonna put these in the freezer. Let them freeze and let the metal contract a wee bit. That way they're a little bit easier to put in forks, or excuse me, in the triples. All right, so as you guys saw, I got some new bearings yesterday. They're in the freezer. Once I'm done getting this thing all cleaned up and ready, I'll put them in. Obviously, I've got the forks and everything pulled off of this. But for those of you who've never, repacked your bearings or anything, if you got a bunch of miles on the bike, or if you've owned your bike for a bunch of years and have never repacked your bearings, it actually doesn't take a lot to get the triple tree off and get to this upper part of the neck. But like if you pull these bearings out, look at that. That's just, it's nasty. I don't even know what kind of grease or whatever they used in that. That is super thick. Now, it's a little bit cold, and this has been exposed to air overnight. And obviously, this is like white lithium grease that's on here. So somebody's come in here and done something before, but the white lithium grease isn't, unless this was the white lithium grease on this bearing at one point in time, but then that means that they did not clean anything out in there. Let's see if I can get that to focus. Or that somehow there was a hell of a lot of dirt getting in there, because there's no reason that should look the way it does. That's just disgusting and foul. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and try to get the races out of there and clean some of that crap up out of there and show you the new bearings going in. All right, so I just cleaned out the neck for the most part of all the old grease and stuff that was in there. And I want to show you guys something which I think is very odd. First of all of this, I don't even know what that is. But I don't think that's supposed to be in there. It's actually hard. Doesn't really scrape off. Come on, focus. Doesn't really scrape off the screwdriver pretty easily, but it does come off. But look at the lip of that bearing race. I don't know if you can see it. There's striations in it, which for a bearing that rolls, it should not leave striations. And there's actually, every one of those little lips is just that. It's a lip. There's a slight deformity in the race, which is odd. I don't think I've ever seen that before in a tapered bearing. And coming up on top, if you look really close, it's pitted. All that is pitted around there, which again, something I've never seen. I'm pretty sure this is stainless steel, but I've never seen stainless steel pit like that in a bearing. And you could just see how nasty that is down there. And that's with almost everything cleaned out. My fingers aren't that long, so I just got to use a screwdriver or something with a paper towel to get that extra little bit of white lithium grease and stuff out of there. But that stain going down the back, that's... it's like a very thick sludge, very odd. So all I can think is that the last time somebody came in here to grease these bearings, all they did was kind of take a grease gun and shoot grease in there and not actually lube the bearings. I don't know. It's very, very odd. Anyway, so I'm old school to get the bearing races out. There's a little lip right around there. So from the bottom, take a long flat screwdriver, hit it from the bottom, knock it out either side. On the bottom, on the back side here, there's a little lip, and on the front side, there's a little lip. You can even see right here on the neck, there's a raised portion of the neck right there, and that's where there's a little notch, so you can get a screwdriver in there and knock it out from the top. When I go to press the new bearings in, the new races in, I actually have a bearing seating set to do that. But to get them out, because I'm not concerned with it damaging them at all, they'll probably snap when I knock them out anyway. I don't really care about that part. All right, I'm going to get to that next. So for the upper bearing, what I'm going to do is take a thick-walled impact socket. I think this is 1 1/16, but it's thick wall. I'm going to stick this up through the bottom of the neck. As you can see, I've already started. Just going to stick that under through the neck on a breaker bar and tap that from underneath to drive out that upper race. Like I said, you can see I've already started it. I'm just going to knock it the rest of the way out. The bottom one I'm having a whale of a time on because I don't have anything handy that's long enough that I can extend and get on those lips down there. So I got to figure out what I'm going to do with that one, but stay tuned. All right, back out in the garage to try to get this lower bearing race out. It's been about a day and a half. Yesterday I was running around doing a bunch of stuff. I did not have a screwdriver or a drift long enough to actually go down through the neck and be able to get to the slot and still have room up here to work with to actually hammer on. So I found this spike. It's a plumbing tool, and honestly I can't remember what it's for. I haven't used it for anything other than impact work. It was in my toolbox. You can see it's bent on the end, and I actually filed it down to give myself a good flat edge there. And basically, remember I showed you that on the neck, on the back side, there's a little slot. In the front slide, there's a little slot where a screwdriver can go and lay on the edge of the bearing race. So I was able to get this down in there. And since it's bent, it gave me a better angle to hit that lip. See if I can see it from the bottom without blinding you with the overhead light. I can't really get that front one, but on the back one, you can see where it goes and it hits the bearing race right on the edge. I've got it about half out now. I'll go ahead and drive it the rest of the way out just so you can see how it works, but it's pretty straightforward. Again, the tip of this is bent just for utility purposes to be able to get a better angle on the lip of that bearing race. And then I'll drive it the rest of the way out. Put the camera down here. Hopefully it'll be viewable. Hammer's down here. You want to do it evenly. It's mostly out, like I said, so I'm going to do a little tap on the back. And there it fell out. Like I said, I had gotten it most of the way out already. But you want to do a couple of hits on the front, then a couple of hits on the back. Make sure it's coming out, and then just drive it all the way out. Just doing it evenly, front, back, front, back. If this was any other kind of bike where around that edge at the bottom of the neck, there's a little lip, or you can access the lip of the race all the way around, it'd be easier to go, side, side, front, back. On this one, you really can only get it front and back until it's about halfway out, and then you can access the sides. But pretty straightforward. Mine was really seized in there, so in full disclosure, I did hit it with a torch a little bit to heat it up and kind of make it contract a bit, or not contract, just heat it up so it would slide a little bit better, because it did not want to come out of there before. But she's out now. So I'm going to clean the lips around where the races go with some brake cleaner on a paper towel. And then when it's time to put the new bearings in, just put a little bit of grease around the edge of that lip where the bearing race is going to go in. You can never you can always put too much grease in there. But for the sake of putting these bearings in, having just a thin film of grease on the walls of that when you get them all clean is going to make it easier for the bearing races to go in, and then put the other bearings on. All right, so for the sake of video, like I said yesterday, I'm not reusing these bearings. I'm putting an entirely different triple tree on, and so I got all new bearings. But I just wanted to show you these things. I haven't cleaned up the actual bearing yet, but these are the races. And hopefully you can see that. You can see the ridges on the inside, and they're not just visible. You can actually feel those ridges from the rollers. Well, that's the lower. Excuse me. So you can feel the ridges from the rollers in the lower bearing on the triple tree. I don't know if that's from age, from it being over tightened. I don't know. And I'm sure it's possible. I've seen videos with other bikes with these ridges in there. But honestly, in all the bikes that I've changed bearings in the triples over the years, I've actually never seen the indentations in there. That's just wild. And this is the upper. And I don't know if you can see this on camera. It is pitted like crazy. And that's been cleaned up a little bit. I haven't hit it with any brake cleaner. Let me hit it with a little brake cleaner and see if I can clean it off any more, to see, one, if the pits show up any better, but just to see if it's not pitted as much as I think it is, and it's really more just grime. So I'm gonna hit that with a little brake cleaner on a paper towel here. And nope, that didn't change anything. It is pitted like crazy. Again, I don't know if you can see that or not. But that's just gross. Well, that's not gross. This thing is gross. Yeah, I don't even get this. There is so much old, nasty grease that is just caked up. So, you want your grease to allow the balls to move, the rollers to move freely and be frictionless. But this stuff is caked on. That's horrible. And so what I'm thinking is somebody repacked these bearings without, the upper one is pretty easy to take off. It just slides right out when you take the upper triple off. And they didn't even bother cleaning this thing out a little bit. And they may have mixed, there was some white lithium grease on there, and I don't know what was on there before, and maybe the white lithium grease and that stuff together just formed, it's almost like a paste. It's really freaking gross. And again, I'm not reusing these, I'm trashing these, but I just wanted to show this for the purposes of video for anybody who might be watching this and who's interested in. If you ever want to repack your bearings, these things are only like $36 a set, but you know, $36 is a lot of money to some and not as much money to others. I would just go ahead and replace these bearings. Um, and they come with a matching race. So when you get the bearings, they come with the race as a set. I would replace them. The job of getting the top one off is a little easier. Again, getting the lower race off is can be a challenge. Getting that out of the neck. The real problem for most people is actually getting this bearing off the bottom of the triple. If you're getting new bearings, you just take a set of dikes or side cutters and you clip the cage here and here, and that'll allow you to separate this. Do it over a bucket or something because all of these rollers will come out when you break this cage loose. And getting the bearing, because this bearing is press fit onto this triple, that's where the work comes in. This is a dust seal here, and so there's plenty of special tools to do it. Getting a cold chisel and kind of hitting it on the backside because there's a lip here on the bearing and trying to break it loose is great. You can put a cold chisel underneath the edge here, and since it's the chisel itself, the tip is tapered, it'll go in there, and as you push it through, it'll start to raise up a little bit. You do it evenly all around. You don't want to hit the stem, and you don't want to mar up your triple too bad. But those are a couple of different ways to get it off. But again, there's special tools galore, and the tools run anywhere from $30 to $70 depending on the type you get, whether you get the Tusk kind or the OTC. And these are brands. I'll put links. Matter of fact, I'm gonna put a link to a video in the bottom of this video or in the comments below, the whatever below. That is a YouTube video of somebody doing a bearing change on a dirt bike, but showing the various special tools you can use, and very just interesting stuff out there. But anyway, so this is the harder one to do. You can repack this. You can put a lot more grease on there, but at least clean off the old stuff a little bit. You don't want to end up with something like this. That's just disgusting. Uh, not that it's just disgusting. It's going to mar it up and muck it up, and it's not going to function very well because this, I mean, it's not even turning. I'm working to turn this thing. It should not be that hard to turn, but there's so much gunk in there, and it's just like a paste now. It's not really letting those bearings turn freely. This should turn really. There we go. Now it's broken loose because I've cleaned out some of that and actually hit it with some brake cleaner a little bit. But that shouldn't be that difficult. Anyway, I'm using an entirely different triple, and I'm going to be pressing on new bearings. So when it comes time to do that, I'll show you that. All right. All right. So extreme close up here. Hi. Little levity. So far I've gotten more than what I thought I would have had done at this point, but probably a lot less than I could have had done at this point. Yesterday I spent quite a bit of time running around trying to actually find a screwdriver long enough to try to use on the neck to get that lower bearing race out. And I didn't go as far as like a Depot or a Lowe's, which at that time of day there was a lot of traffic and I didn't feel like fighting it. Just went to the couple of automotive places not too far away, neither of which were of any help. I actually ordered the special tool or one of the special tools just to keep in my repertoire and have in my toolbox or something like that in case I need it down the line. I don't have to change I don't have to pull bearing races very often, but it's just one of those special tools that I don't mind having around. If you don't do this often enough, don't spend the money on a tool that you're rarely going to use. Find somebody who's got one and borrow it. It just makes more sense. Again, spending $40 to $70 on a tool that you might use once every 2 years is probably money that could be better spent on something else. But I take after my dad in that I have a lot of tools that I may only use once a year or once every 2 years. But when I want to have them, then I just have to remember where they are. Anyway, so I'm going to end probably episode 3 here. just to give you an idea of where the bike is. So the bearing races are out. The bearings are out. On the next installment, I'm going to press fit the new bearings on the new triple clamp, which is there. I pulled the exhaust off, and I pulled the intake off because I'm using a completely different intake. The exhaust is going to have to be cut to make room for the bags. So I just have rags in the holes for the exhaust, so no critters try to get warm in there. And I just have some painter's tape over the over the carburetor opening for the intake. And so she's sitting like this, and will be like this for a couple of days. I'll get back to work probably tomorrow, but just in case something happens, adulting is hard, and so there's lots of things to do. But my hope is that when I get back on it tomorrow, I will get the bearings press fit on the triples, get the triple trees mounted in. I'm gonna put the forks back on, even though I'm gonna do the air ride, so I'm gonna change springs and everything. I don't have everything I need for that yet, so I'm just gonna go ahead and mount the forks as they are for now. And I'll pull them later on when I'm ready to do the air ride, and I'll change the springs and make that all kind of one episode. And I'll put the front wheel back on. So I'll do all that for the next episode, and probably get into mounting the bag brackets in the back. I haven't put my whiteboard up yet with my plan of attack, so I'm not sure if I'm going to work on the bag brackets now or after I do the air ride. But I guess you'll find that out when I start the next episode. Hope you've enjoyed this. Few bloopers in there, some boring stuff. I know not all of this is exciting, and probably not all stuff you want to see. But you can always skip through it. Until next time, talk to you soon.